are here with Scott Rammage today with Hire VP. He is the first guest on our newly branded podcast, The Financial Operator. And I think you are a good one because our tagline is cash in, chaos out. And you are really good at helping with the chaos in businesses. So first, just tell me about you, your business. Give us kind of a rundown of your history and how you got to where you're at.
Well, first of all, I'm really excited to be on like the first episode of The Shift.
Yeah,
Which is
I couldn't think of a better guest.
really cool. I've been looking forward to this. So, I am Scott, obviously, but the first thing about me is I am very happily married to my wife. That's incredibly important to me. So 29 years in a month. We'll have been married probably about 29 years when this airs. And we have two boys. They're older, and that's the most important part of my life, and that I always like to make that known, because one of my messages is like business can consume you, so you got to kind of keep the right things in line for your life. So I own Hire VP, which is a virtual staffing agency. So we source and hire virtual professionals to work side by side with business owners in a lot of different industries. You probably heard the word VA. We've worked really hard to elevate that game and bring a little higher level skill set and experience to our clients, so that they're not starting from scratch, because working and learning to leverage remote individuals is already a challenge for many people. So the more we can relieve of that and allow them to kind of tap into this superpower of this source, the better it is for us and the better it is for our clients.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And to your point, I've worked with several of your people at this point, and you really do like get the cream of the crop from your people. It's your interview process is amazing. You offer up like so much more opportunity and guidance with your business owners, so that there's room to learn, and like you don't have to be the one that's like coming up with all of these things. You don't like your VPs come in with some idea of what they can already do to offer the business owner help and things like that. So tell me how you got into this, because you have a long history of entrepreneurial quests, we'll call them.
Good word. Well, first of all, you started working with me with Hire VP like 2.5 years ago, I believe.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you've even seen that evolution over 2.5 years, which I'm sure has been quite the experience. It's pretty unique to see it from then to now, and going through multiple people because of the shifts you've made in your business over time, which have really been exciting. But I was always that entrepreneur. Like most entrepreneurs, you start everything yourself and you do everything yourself, and it's really hard to move away from that. So, I've been doing business for over 21 years, and it started with the brick and mortar business, and I've done multiple iterations. I've been in home services. I've owned a gym, bike shop, web store, or web e-commerce, and I've done a lot. But the one theme that I see over and over again is, as individuals who've started businesses, we tend to overwork and under leverage other people, trying to keep that money. It's really important that we have that money, but that probably the bigger thing that we can talk and dive into more later if you want is the identity wrapped around what we do, and the fact that, well, if I hand this part of the business off, I'm not the hero anymore, and I'm really comfortable being the hero because I'm the one that can do this the best. And so I was that guy. I was that guy for years. I'm very adept. A lot of people say you're a jack of all trades. Like, I remember I bought my first sign, Jen, and I was like, you charging me how much for, it was a tiny sign. It was like 2 feet wide, and it was like $700. What? And so I went and did research and bought a sign, a vinyl cutter, taught myself, and sold enough in the first week of owning that to pay for that sign and create all of my signs from then on out. So I'm this guy that anytime there's a challenge, I go learn the thing, I do it, and then I learn how to make money from it. And that's just, so I started to identify as like the guy who could do everything. He could fix everything. And through a series of my experiences, I ended up being a contractor for another company. It was a startup fitness company. And they started, when I started, there was 8 clients, and they're like, we need someone to do sales. We need someone to do onboarding. You have all this experience with customer experience. You have this experience with running a sales team. And what they knew was that I have kind of an operating gene. I'm an integrator naturally. And so they probably were like, ding, 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 we saw who we need. And they recruited me. And so I was working from them. And because of the way I work, I would fill all my time. I was working, probably 60 hours a week, which is great, but I'm a contractor. I have a fixed rate. And, the longer I was in it, the more I was doing. I just kept adding more and more and more to my plate, and building this company up. When I left, we were at about 183 international clients. And it was, that for a recurring product, that was really, really big growth. But what I found was I was continually doing the thing I'd always done. I'd always worked until like I just couldn't do it anymore, and I would look back and I'm like, wow, my family has completely paid the price for me working. And I was starting to see this pattern emerge again of, I'm doing this again. I'm filling all my time with work. I love working. I love solving problems, but I had started a podcast. I'd started this whole group called the Brotherhood of Fatherhood, and it grew really fast. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So now I'm working like 60, 70 hours a week. And I have a podcast that I need to edit, and this group I need to manage. And I'm going to do this event. I'm going to run this event. And I was talking to my mentor at the time, and he said, Scott, like, what you need is a VA, but I don't think you're ever going to have success with it. I was like, well, okay. So I didn't say anything. I just went to work. I went and did a lot of research. I actually took like little coaching classes. I took a master class on how to hire, find, and use a VA. And I hired my first VA. I think what my advantage was I had 13 years of education. I have a master's degree in education. So bringing someone on and onboarding them was like super natural for me. And I have a degree in psychology. So behavior psychology and understanding how people tick and how they work and what works for them was kind of like part of the way my brain worked. And so I found this gal. She still works for me. She's getting her master's degree. She goes to school in Florida right now, but she still works for me full time. I found this gal, and she started doing my podcast editing. I'm like, this is cool. I'm like, how much time do you have left? I'm going to pay you 40 hours a week. She's like, I got a lot of time. So I started giving her reports for the gig I was doing, and she started doing reports. Jen, within 3-4 months, I had 3 full-time VAs. And something hit after that. I'm in this 3 or 4 months. 2 things happened. One, I was leading multiple masterminds for gym owners, because this was a fitness company I was in. And they're all like, we've tried VAs, they don't work. Obviously, you found magic people. I'm like, I don't think I did. But enough complaining from them, I'm like, just use mine. And I just tagged on like $2 an hour for what they were doing. And after a month, I'm like, oh, wow, I made enough money to pay for my team. This is crazy. And those clients now clients, they were so happy. The other thing that occurred to me kind of in the exact same timing is I kind of realized I have 3 full-time VAs. I'm still working full time, and I'm still making the same amount of money I was making before. And it was like I don't know how many times I have to get hit by a Mack truck of like obviousness, but I'm like, I did it again. I have filled all time with work. I leveraged this amazing tool, and here I am being an idiot again. My wife's, frustrated. My kids are probably like, Dad is always working. And that's when I started to realize that leveraging other people isn't about filling my time with more things, because that will always occur if I let it. It's about finding some, not balance, but finding a place in my life where I can operate at a very high level and still maintain that space and time for me to go mountain biking and do the things I love and spend time with my family. And then the business was born from there.
Okay. So I can relate to a lot of the things that you've said because, I have also been on my own kind of entrepreneurial journey, but also in and out of working for other people and trying to figure out ways that I can, because I'm much like you, that I will take on anything and everything. And I'm
No,
like,
you
oh,
won't.
I can do it all. Yes. Me. And then you get to this point where you're like, you can never work enough to be able to get all of the work done. And so when I first hired a VP, it was almost like, wow, like it gets addicting because you're like, oh, they can do this. Can they also do this? Can they do this? And then it becomes this like game almost like, what can I take off my plate so that I can get back to like a normal life instead of the 60, 70 hours a week, 7 days a week kind of thing. So it's a it's been an evolution as I've worked with you as well. Like, because I am not, I love to delegate, but I'm also the same person that will be like, well, it's just faster if I just go do it. Right. And you have to get yourself out of that mindset and let somebody else take on those, like, in the time that like, just send them the instructions and they can do it. You don't have to.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, Jen. Like I think you and I are wired very similarly. We've been kind of meeting regularly for a couple of years now, and I think the two of us operate incredibly alike. You might relate to this. I have a team. I have 21 full-time VPs in the Philippines, right? And so, um, like, just I can delegate like crazy. Like,
Mhm.
hey, I got all these people. Here's what we need done, and it just gets done because we've built out system processes, SOPs, the team structure, everything. And just last week, was really struggling with bringing on a new EA, and so the guy that owns the company struggling with bringing on a new EA, and kind of had to let her go, and that was there was an obvious reason. Don't have to get into it now, but because we understand this industry really well and how important a really good match is. I could tell, okay, this is not right. But one of my past EAs, who I always promote into the company and lose these great people, she said, "Hey Scott, I got a solution for you. I want to present to you." And I'm like, "Okay." And she came to me and she's like, I know I've been doing things for your email for like 2 years now. I'm like, yeah, and it's awesome. Thank you. She goes, but you're still spending too much time in your email. Oh, she goes, now that that EA is gone that you were trying, here's what I would like to do. And she presented this plan to me. And Jen, this is just last week. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I, I said, you're changing behaviors I've done for years. And she goes, well, can we just give it an opportunity? Within 24 hours, I realized how much time I was moving to my email and reading it. She built such an insanely amazing system. I'm sure she found, did research and figured it out. I've probably gained back 2 hours of my day, of every day this week alone from
Mhm.
just starting. And the more I found myself just getting on my phone and looking at the email, but she put it in a way where it doesn't show up unless I intentionally go to the place. I'm like, every time, like, oh my gosh, I opened it again. I didn't even know I was opening it. And I think I know for a fact that this is how most business owners operate. They have zero clue the amount of time, the things that they're doing that they think only they can do. It's wild. And I'm this many years into it, and still learning lessons. I have clients. I know I'm talking a lot, but I have this client, Chris, who's phenomenal. I've become good friends with him. He's just an amazing human, but he's also an incredible visionary. And if you know visionaries, they're putting like 15 businesses together at a time, right? And he sent me this text, and it was this long running text between him and his EA, and she's basically just telling him, "You need to leave now for your meeting. on the way, there's some backup on the traffic in this spot, so make sure you go on this deviation. I put the updated link for your map on your phone. Like, like I'm like, whoa. And she's like, and on your way back, just make a call to so and so and let them know if you're running behind. Here's their phone number. So like, all he does is goes to that and has to hit the buttons. He then goes on to show me the system they built up. And at the end, he texts me, he says, Scott, I'm actually bored to death. He's like,
What a problem.
he goes, it's created a new problem for me. And since then, he started 2 different businesses, and they're actually wildly successful. But this is, so there's people who've like just absolutely exploded into this. Me, I'm apparently a slow learner, but I think every business owner, if they haven't leveraged a person who can get in with really good soft skills. And so I could definitely go into the soft skills, but that's active listening. It's leadership, like leading somebody. So not, even though we're leaders in our company, we sometimes need people leading us. It's problem solving ahead of time. So it's like progressive problem solving. Like, I'm going to be in front of you, or proactive, excuse me. Time management and an upbeat, positive attitude. If you can find somebody with those skills and has experience doing these things, it's like wheels off. And I get messages from business owners all the time. Like, I cannot believe the amount of bandwidth I have right now. I cannot believe I've been doing this for so long. And so I say all that because, if you're listening and you haven't leveraged this level of skill in somebody that has this like deep desire to do things for you and serve you on a level that you've never been served, you will have no idea what your life could be like. It's awesome.
I think this is a great segue into part 2 of
Okay.
the episode here. We're doing a 2-part series. Part 1, we've learned about Scott. Part 2, let's talk more details and how you actually leverage people to help you build your business. So, okay, so you just told us about some of these soft skills and how important they are. I know that is a big part of your hiring process. You have them do personality tests, you have them do videos showcasing their, why they think they're the right fit for whoever's business. Tell us more about how do you, first question, actually, let's go back to this. First of all, as a business owner, how do you know when it's the right time to hire?
That is probably one of the top questions I get, and probably one of the most confusing things to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
If you're asking the question, it's too late.
Yeah.
I think we underestimate how soon we need people. As long as you're hiring the right position first. And so a lot of people get that part messed up, is they try to go to the one low level. So if you're a company that provides labor, obviously as the owner, you need to relieve yourself of always being in the field, because you've got to make big decisions and create relationships. But so those are a little more obvious. I need another person doing this. But when it comes to like the higher level things, whether it's an executive assistant, a front office person, a bookkeeper, or maybe it's someone doing all of those, right? Or a project manager, or somebody just like to keep the ship in order and communicate with clients and communicate with the team and make sure everybody's on the same page. The answer is not more about the win, because the win is right now. It's more about the mindset of the person hiring. So if you're a business owner right now and you're asking yourself, should I be hiring right now? The answer is yes. So you really actually have to hire for where you're going, because if you hire for where you're at, you're always going to be there. Like I've seen it over, I've done it, and I've grown businesses to a certain number and just capped out because I didn't see the bigger picture. And so the question becomes, if I hire a person to do this, it's not what ROI are they going to bring, because they're only going to bring an ROI that you're giving them access to, right? The ROI is actually you. So that return on investment now is, how are you going to handle that time? So let's go back to my story that I told in segment 1 about hiring 3 full-time VAs and me not making any more money. Like, I made those hires at the right time, but how could I have done a better job and gotten better ROI? One, ROI of time. I could have had more time had I not filled it with more work, taking on more responsibility that I wasn't even being asked to. So that was one. The other one is, business owners so often are doing so many things that they don't get to spend time in their zone of genius. And when you're in your zone of genius, it gives you that thing that you do gives you the number one asset in the world. And most people will say, oh, that's time. Dan Martell says, buy back your time. Actually, the number one, when you get to like really high level business owners who have built these companies and they're at like the 800 to 1500 an hour value, um, you know, they time is they can buy that now. It's energy. And so if you can get more energy in your day, there's like, you think about this catapult that's going to happen. You're going to be friendlier to those people in the funnel who might want to use your businesses, but they've been kind of like, I'm not sure about that guy or gal. Now they're looking at you and you're happy and you have more. People will see your energy. So that's number one. That's a huge ROI. If you're feeling more energetic, people are going to be attracted to you. That is really hard to measure, but that is probably the most powerful one. The other one is, maybe you're really good at sales and you really should be doing the sales, because at the end of the day, you're stoked. You just did 5K in sales and you're like, nothing can stop me now. That feeling is like really hard to put a number on. Sure, you got 5K in sales, that's more money in your pocket, but it's that feeling that's hard to put a number on. And so, or maybe it's, I want to spend half my day for a plumbing business. I want to spend half my day turning a wrench. That's why I got into this in the first place. I absolutely love it, but I know that the other half of the day I can use leading the team. And those two things combined are going to give me energy and also raise the value of everything that we do, which is going to bring us in more money. And so if you're asking, the time is now, but do the work on yourself first and truly evaluate what you're going to hire that is draining you. And personality assessments are a really good way. We both know Brian Alexander, and he does what's called predictive index. And I'm working with him, and I call him and I'm like, dude, how do I know when it's the right time to hire a sales guy for hire VP? And he said, well, who's doing it now? I said, me. He's like, how many calls are you doing? 2 to 5 a day. He's like, so tell me why you think you need a sales guy. I said, well, I don't know. I love talking to the business owners. And I'm having a hard time giving that up, because I really love having that connection. And we can serve them. And then I know who they are and I know their pain points. And it's really awesome to talk to them. He goes, can I throw in what I think the but is? And I'm like, yeah, because he's seen my predictive index. He goes, let me guess, at the end of the day, you're totally exhausted. You don't want to talk to anybody anymore. You're really fulfilled with the conversations you have, but you don't, like, you could have stopped halfway through your day and been done. Yeah. He's like, right. That's how you're wired. You're not wired. You're wired to talk with people, but at a certain point, it's done and it's draining you of your energy. He said, getting another salesperson, what if instead of talking to the person at beginning, you got to talk to them later on and create that relationship, and you're not selling, and then you can control how many, maybe you do 2 calls a day. And I'm like, that sounds really awesome. He's like, so that's why you need to hire a sales guy. So you got to have the data to understand. And of course, we sold a lot more. I was capping my sales calls like a 2 a day. Sales guy wants to do 6 to 8, right? He's like, give me more. He's like, feed me, which is paying for itself tenfold. And so understand yourself, get that information about yourself, and then realize, okay, if I spend, like, some people just feel guilty for like, well, what am I going to do with those 2 hours? If you're a service company in a town, go talk to other businesses, go spend time in the community, go join a group, go volunteer. Your face in that community is going to bring such huge value, and it's going to come back to you. So long answer to one question is now is the time, but you have to evaluate yourself. And then the other thing I would say, Jen, is don't try and get everything perfect before you bring someone in. Bring someone in and let them get it right.
Hmm. I think that's a good segue too, because for instance, like I know me and probably 100% of other business owners, like sometimes when you're bringing somebody in and you are so busy that you can't even think,
Mm-hmm.
like the thought of having to train somebody else can seem overwhelming. It can seem that like that's almost the deterring
It
factor
is.
for bringing somebody in, right? Like they're like, I don't have time to actually offboard that. So your team actually has some like SOPs for your VPs as they're coming in, right? Like how they can step in and help the business owner without having to get direction.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've identified this is a major problem with business owners is I can't slow down enough to get somebody into that position.
Mhm,
I'm like, you know what? I actually totally get it. I've been
mhm,
there many times. I totally understand. And I feel that way all the time too. Not so much anymore, but used to. And so one, we're typically hiring people who've done it before. And then there's the personality thing.
mhm,
So with that type of person, we bring in somebody who is going to drive the process. They're going to say, hey, Jen, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start reading all, and I kind of go on the low level tasks like email and calendars because it's easy to explain. I'm going to start reading all of your emails. Just give me access to your emails. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to read them all. And I'm going to watch you reply. And then I'm going to start to categorize what I can handle and what I need you to handle. And then I'm going to tell you at that point, here's what I'm going to do. Then they can send you a screenshot. Here's what I've comprised as the response. What do you think? You curate it as you go. Now you're not spending as much time. They're doing this thing. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're answering a few questions a day on emails that your EA is bringing to you. So these are people who are proactive in creating systems. Another really great way, quite honestly, is a little phone tripod and like have them live the day with you on Zoom if you're out and about. If it's in an office, just pop them right on your computer, share your screen and work.
mhm,
Another way is before you hire someone, which I would not say slow down to hire someone, but when you're working on your computer, just record everything using Loom and talk. Okay,
yeah,
so you start a Loom. Loom is a really good tool. There's a bunch of other ones. Snippet. There's all sorts of it. Snagit, something like that. But Tango, you can they're very inexpensive. You open up your computer, you title the thing, and you start talking and doing, and that becomes a living SOP at that moment. So as soon as you bring someone in, they can watch that video, they can repeat, and then they can create an actual SOP document. So now you're getting some really cool stuff done.
mhm,
And so for those folks, a lot of times it's shadowing, a lot of times it's shadowing through like recorded screens, or even I have clients that work all day with their VA. If they do a lot of computer work, they just work together and they watch, and
mhm,
then they ask questions, and then before they know it, it's off. It's
mhm.
off their plate. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of ways to handle that.
the thing I love about all of those though is that for you, for the business owner, it is a one-time thing that you have to do, right? Like you
Yep.
record that SOP and then that's it. Like the VP, and I know this has probably been the case for many people, is that like you bring in a VP to do one thing, but then you realize they're really good at something else. So then
Yep.
they almost like get promoted out of their original position and then you backfill, right? And that's kind of a great way to, but you already have all of those SOPs created. Your VP can also work on adding in SOPs for what they do. And it just takes so much pressure off of you to continuously train somebody every time you make that hire.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this. I don't know how many times at work, but my own story is the most easy for me to tell. When I started Hire VP, I was already working with VAs. I already had another company run by VAs. It was working great, and so um, I hired Chloe, who you know Chloe, and I'm like, hey, you're gonna help me recruit. I need help with recruiting, and so she learned the recruiting by just mirroring me, and then said, I have some improvements for the process, by the way. I'm like, great, document them, let's do them. And she kept taking on more and more stuff, and she was elevated to like my executive assistant, kind of like my second in charge, if you will, because there was two of us, right? When she got so busy, she then was able to say, hey, here's all the screen recordings and processes for how we do recruiting. And she hired a recruiter, and then she hired an admin to do all the admin stuff she was doing. And this has gone on, and like I said, we have 21 full-time people working in this company alone. Well, she's the operating manager, so she's elevated, and I have trained none of those people. I trained Chloe, who learned everything, who then moved on and kept elevating herself in the company and just kind of like moving this stuff to the next person. Here's how you do it. Here
Mm-hmm.
you go. And
Mm-hmm.
she's operating in her zone of genius now. So not only am I doing this thing where I'm getting the most value out of my day, every employee or person that we've hired, and this can be a VA team. The guy I was talking about earlier that showed me the screenshot of his text from he's hired, I think he's at 17 full-time VAs. And that gal that sent him that screen, like all the instruction, she's running the entire team.
Yeah.
And, it's like he's done the exact same thing I've done. And so, yeah, if you get the right person, they're going to be promoted as you grow. And it's a beautiful, wonderful thing. But like I have a hard time getting an EA because I always elevate them up in the company. I'm my own
Yeah.
worst enemy.
The number of times that I've heard you like, well, even as you've worked with me over the last, I don't know, couple of years, it's like the number of VAs that you've had, and then well, all of a sudden they're gone because you've promoted them into something else, or, you know,
I
it's
see
been a
the
few.
potential in people.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about, because as a business owner yourself, like I first met you probably, I don't know, 3, 4 years ago, something like that. You were not in the spot that you're in now, right? So how have you, aside from delegating all of these things, how have you grown your business? What struggles have you found at the different kind of revenue marks, whatever it is? How can you expand on that and help businesses grow?
I'm gonna get pretty deep here. So the first battle I had to deal with, and it was during the time that I met you, was that my value was greater than I had ever given myself credit for. So the first thing I did was got into rooms with people that saw that potential in me and started to speak that potential into me. I was so pissed off for years because I was at a $10,000 a month income ceiling. I just could not break it. And I realized through a lot of self work and really understanding that I was worth um, what I was charging and more, because people literally told me you need to charge more. This is ridiculous. That I had put that on myself, and I was frustrated and struggling. There was a day at a dinner table. We had to make some cuts. This is right when I moved you to our family, because I had a situation happen in that first business I was talking about. I was sitting at the dinner table. I told my sons, like, hey, we're going to be pulling in a little bit. I had to let go of a couple people. I'm barely making payroll for folks right now. And my son just kind of looked at me, and I wish I remembered the words, but he said, Dad, it's like, I don't know anybody that works harder than you. When is it going to pay off? And that was like a little dagger in my heart, right? But it was also adrenaline. It was pure adrenaline. And so I took that. I'm like, you know what? He sees what I'm doing, and he sees greater potential in me. I got people telling me I have more potential. Why am I questioning myself? So the first thing is you got to believe in yourself. You got to get to that point where you really get past that self-limiting, to identify that you have it and then go after it hard. And it's very deep work. It takes very intentional work. That was number one. The other thing is getting around the right people so they can help you identify those. So, I've been in a room, like a weekly meeting with you for years. And that's because those people are like, wait, Scott, no, you're going the wrong way. So they're telling me when I'm making mistakes and when I'm not on the right path, and then when I am. So that's number one, is like, you know that you are what the 5 people that you're around or whatever. Like, there's a lot of truth to that. And I teach my team about this a lot, is really, you got to have the people around you pushing you, either through how they're doing or like literally pushing you. So um, those two things, those 2 or 3, whatever I said, are incredibly important.
Mhm.
You just got to get rid of your own garbage in your head.
Mhm.
Then it's also the game. I'm going to tell you guys that, going from one full-time person, taking that, I remember going to my wife and like, I got to hire this gal. I need it, but it's X amount per month. And, I kind of hate to give that up. She's like, okay, how long do you think you'll have to give that up? That's a really good question. Maybe a month or two. She's like, yeah, we can handle that much for a month or two.
Yeah.
Of course, it didn't take that long. Um, so that's another one, is like every hire is a little bit of a hit.
Mhm.
I just made massive hiring over the last like 3 months, and it's been a significant hit, but everything will grow with it, because one, you'll get some more energy because things are getting done better, and so you'll have a little more oomph in you. But two, you're bringing in people who are specializing and doing what they need to do. So hiring is a very big role play in that.
Mhm.
But the lessons, the further you go, the more in depth the lessons get, and you can't stop. You
Mhm.
can't stop, like really honing in and having a really, really clear mirror of where you're at and what you're doing and what you look like now. There's a book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. If anybody knows me, they know I love his books because he co-authors with Dan Sullivan, Who Not How, and um, uh, what is it? I can't even think of it right now, but um, The Gap in the Game, one of my
Yeah.
favorites.
I was like,
But
it's right back there.
yeah, like, but the book I'm reading right now, I'm reading for like the third time, is Be Your Future Self Now. That is
Mm.
exactly what I'm talking about. What Ben Hardy lays out in there is that self reflection of like, wait, who am I now? Is not who I can be later, but I have to identify where I'm going before I can step into that. And that's what the big part is, understanding where you're going and having the belief that you can do that. And you know, let's just say 10K is not a problem anymore. And but that always brings new things. So you can't stop.
Yeah. Every level has its issues, right? But I always feel like that that 10K, especially for like a single operator, single person operator, that 10K a month is that first, like, I made it. But
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, okay. Well, then how do I get past that, right? So
I
you have
remember,
obviously done that.
yeah, I remember the identifier for me, I was always like, why am I stuck at 10K? Why am I stuck? I was so mad. I was yelling at God. I was so mad. And I'm like, this is stupid. What are you doing to me? And I remember our friend or Kevin Faulkner said, he goes, you're not nothing till you're making 20K a month. And I was like, well, whatever, right? But I started to think, like, why did I think I'd made it? So part of that problem was I thought I had made it at 10K a month. That's over
Mhm.
100,000 a year. Like, you're great, right? Well, time and money changes, but that was also another thing for me. Someone saying, like, look, like, double it, for goodness sakes, double it, and don't stop until you've doubled it. But uh, you would not believe the amount of growth it takes to make more money.
Mhm.
Um, it doesn't end, and you will get a completely different viewpoint into life and how things work. The more income you make, it's wild. And the problems are 10x, and people are like, oh, cry me a river, you make a lot of money and there's 10x problems. It's just an equation that I heard before, and I'm like, whatever. And now I'm like, yeah, I get
I
it
think at
now.
that point, though, one of the reasons that it's like different problems is because you have so many people that are in your sphere that you are responsible for in many ways, right? Like, you are responsible for their livelihoods. So there's a lot more pressure at higher levels.
Yeah.
Uh, but can you give an example of, like, what's another problem that you face that's, as you've grown, that you never imagined that this was even a problem?
That's just, I think you kind of nailed it. It's the people.
Hmm.
Um, you you have to find a really good balance of giving and leading, and then the giving can never be give to just give. It's got to be a lesson or a reward or an incentive or a earned, because you never want to create a culture of entitlement. And so the shift, probably the hardest thing, is the shift from doer to leader, and then from leader to leader of leaders. So
Mm.
right now I'm in leader of leaders. I'm hiring leaders and I'm guiding them. But man, like yesterday, I have an executive coach, and his like zone of genius is people, helping me people. He says he helps people, and I'm like, yeah, you do. So I was having a little internal struggle with some leadership, and I knew that leadership person was having a little internal struggle with me, and so I got him on the phone to guide us through that, because this is all new. Leading a leader is a completely different thing. And I'll tell you, after that call, I was done. Like, it was an hour in my morning and I felt like I just ran a marathon. I was exhausted. So it it becomes a completely different thing, and there's some guilt that's built into it, because when you're doing that high of level of work, you cannot be doing boom. You can't just be firing boom, 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 because you don't have the ability to really do the high level work you have to do to get that high level work out of other people and lead them up.
Mhm.
I am loving it. I absolutely love, like, every Monday I do like a leadership and personal growth message to my entire team, and they eat it up. And then it's leading the leaders, getting on calls. Okay, how can you see the problems and solve the problems before I do? And that's a whole nother thing, because we're tuned into being the ones searching the problems. But then it's like, learning another big lesson I'm learning, Jen, is that I am a very big gas pedal. My coach told me that yesterday. So you're all gas. And
Mhm.
so when you come with the throttle on full to your team, they're trying to assess and then move at the speed they need to move to make it right. And so there's a lot of self-learning you do as you grow.
Okay. Well, thank you, Scott. I think you've given some really great insights. Um, Obviously, your business can help grow other businesses. So, anybody listening, if you need a VP, Scott is definitely the guy to reach out to, or his team. He doesn't do the sales calls anymore.
But I'd love to talk to you anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
But thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Jen.
We'll talk later.
I can't wait.